third goal, which is very important for the students, is intensify research, innovation and entrepreneurship spirit on campus.
A very warm good afternoon to one and all present here. I am delighted to welcome you all for the 17th edition of the University Distinguished Lecture Series. I kindly request the dignitaries, our guest of honor today, Dr Girish Sahni, our beloved Vice Chancellor, Professor Manoj K. Arora, Professor Ranjit Thapa, Dean of Research, and Dr Vinayak Kalluri, our Controller of Examination, to please come to the dais. I now request our beloved Vice Chancellor, Professor Manoj K. Arora, to come and give a welcome address and to give information about the University Distinguished Lecture Series.
Dr Girish Sahni, Madam Sahni, Ranjit, Dean Research, Vinayak, officiating registrar today, and my colleagues and students, especially research scholars sitting there, if there are any or there are many. I was assuming there would be all sitting there. I would have loved that if this hall would have been filled, my energy would have been more, but somehow probably they are sleeping after this heavy dose of lunch. I don't know what is happening to them. But I would have loved if this auditorium would have been full with the students, because University Distinguished Lecture Series is very unique to us. This is our signature event. We have had stalwarts coming to our campus and talking to our faculty and students on various issues related to science and technology, arts, business, and whatnot. There have been great people who have come and delivered this lecture. During COVID period also, we never stopped, and there were online lectures by those great people. As I said, it is a signature event for us, and today we have with us Dr. Girish Sahni. He is former Director General CSIR, you know, and many of you may be CSIR fellows sitting over here. I have an association with Dr. Sahni for more than a decade now. And if I remember correctly, when I joined Punjab Engineering College, deemed to be university, as the director, at that time he was director of one of the CSIR labs, Institute of Microbial Technology, and he was also officiating CSIO as the director, which is another CSIR lab. So he was having two hats at that time when I joined Chandigarh in 2013, July 2013. And we met once, and I was quite fascinated by his energy at that time. He still has the same energy. I am meeting him after several years. And we got connected at that time, and immediately he invited me to deliver foundation lecture on their foundation day, which is CSIO Foundation Day, in September 2013, if I remember correctly. And he invited me, so I am giving you back, sir, here, by inviting you here, but at a very higher level series of lectures. At that time, I talked on landslide hazard zonation, risk assessments, and how it is useful for the country, for the society, to really monitor those landslides and adopt remedial measures so that these mishaps do not occur. So that since then, we have been associated. We had a very good trip together to UK when we visited University of Nottingham and Coventry University, where We went there as delegates of Chandigarh Region Innovation and Knowledge Cluster. So since then, I have seen Dr. Sahni to be an innovator, a technology transfer person. He believes in technologies. So though he's a scientist, but he has that zeal and fire to convert all the science into technology. And I don't know how many technology transfers he would have converted during his tenure in leading the CSIR labs. Today, he may share some of his experiences, but he knows how to convert Lakshmi from Saraswati. You know that? Goddess Saraswati to Goddess Lakshmi. So he knows the art. And sir, we are a very, very research intensive university. We have fantastic faculty who are very good at publication of papers in quality journals. They are very good at publishing patents. Some of them have been granted also. But they also need to learn how to take their research to a technology level. So therefore, I hope that your talk will be a great learning for them in this particular domain, wherein not only the faculty, but the research scholars also should be able to think differently to take your research to a different level, which you would not have imagined, wherein you yourself can also become billionaire. That is the power of research. Everything starts from research only. So I'm sure you will benefit from this talk, and please be interactive once he has finished his talk. Get ideas. I would like to associate him with us forever. He has promised me. So depending upon his bandwidth, he will be available to us from time to time. So thank you, sir, for coming to our campus. We are very young campus, young faculty, young students, but I know you are young as ever, because I know how jovial you are, and we used to laugh many times. He is very humorous also, so maybe let's give a big round of applause to him and welcome him here.
Thank you very much for your kind words, sir. At this point, I'd like to mention that Professor D. Narayan Rao, Research Director of SRM Group of Institutions, as well as Professor V.S. Rao, our advisor, have joined online, and they are also listening to this lecture. Thank you, sirs, for joining us online. It is my great privilege and pleasure to introduce the distinguished guest of honor for today, Dr. Girish Sahni. Dr. Girish Sahni obtained his undergraduate and postgraduate education from Punjab University and did his PhD from the Indian Institute of Science, Bengaluru in the year 1984. He did few postdocs from University of California, Santa Barbara, Rockefeller Institute, and then he was also working as an adjunct faculty at Albert Einstein College of Medicine, New York. He joined CSIR Institute of Microbial Technology located in Chandigarh as a senior scientist in the year 1991, and he worked there throughout his career. In the year 2005, he took over as the director of the institute, and he was their director until 2015. By 2015, he served as the Director General for all CSIR institutions and also Secretary of DSIR, Govt of India. With respect to research, Dr. Sahni is a pioneer in the area of protein cardiovascular drugs. Especially, He worked on the area of clot busters and their mode of action in the human body. Dr. Sahni led a team that was responsible for producing the technology for India's first indigenous clot buster drug named streptokinase. Now the brand name is STPase and it is marketed by Cadila Pharmaceuticals from Ahmedabad. In addition to that, his team also led and worked for the development of more recombinant-based proteins as drug molecules, including recombinant streptokinase, which are now produced by Sashun Drugs in Chennai, and Clot Bluster and Lupiflow. So these are all the commercial names that are being sold, but the original discovery was coming from his team. He also developed a novel lifesaver thrombolytic drug, clot-specific streptokinase, which was India's first biotherapeutic molecule. And it was patented and licensed to a US company in the year 2006. So similarly, Sir has also worked on 4th generation anti-thrombotic clot busters, which are being technology transferred to biotech industries. So this informs and this tells you the kind of work that Dr. Sahni has done throughout his research career. Dr. Sahni's work have been published in various research journals of prestigious journals and multiple patents, definitely. And because of his work, he is a member of various prestigious academies, including the Indian Academy of Science, Bengaluru, the National Academy of Science, India, and he is also a fellow of Association of Microbiologists in India. To his credit, Dr. Sahni is a recipient of various honors and awards. This includes National Biotechnology Product Development Award, which was given in the year 2002, CSIR Technology Shield Award, which was given in 2001-2, the Vasvik Industrial Award, Ranbaxy Award in Pharmaceutical Sciences. So this kind of tells us the kind of impact that he has made in the field of biotechnology. Sir, it is a pleasure and honor to have you with us at our campus and share your thoughts to the young minds as well as the faculty members. I kindly request you to deliver the 17th chapter of the University Distinguished Lecture Series of the SRM University.
Professor Manoj Arora, my gracious friend and host, you were very generous with your comments in your introduction. Thank you very much. I am honored to be here today, and I was astounded in a very positive way at the shape that this institution has taken, the buildings, the architecture, the warmth, the camaraderie, the faculty, and many, many things. And now with all this energy assembled into this hall, I feel very blessed today to be able to address you, my dear friends, faculty, and students. As I look at you, I remember my own days as a student in ISC Bangalore where I joined as a PhD scholar in 1978. Looks like 1,000 years ago. But in my mind, it is a very fresh memory because when you go into higher education, you have a lot of doubts in your mind. When you look at people who have been recognized, your faculty, your teachers, sometimes you feel, would I be able to achieve the kind of distinction, the scholarship that my teachers have got? Believe me, the greatest thing that as students we can enjoy and be full of gratitude is the wisdom, experience, knowledge, care, love, commitment that our teachers bring into our lives. Like our own parents who give everything for your welfare, the teaching community, the research community, and of course to that community also belong all the administrators and other supporters of a wonderful institution like SRM. They will take you to heights that you did not expect from yourselves. When a teacher teaches you in the classroom, their purpose is not just to give you data. The purpose is to give you data, but also inspiration to search for yourself. What is possible, what was there in the past, how you can create new knowledge. when proverbially Newton looked at the apple, he probably went through years of training, years of philosophical curiosity and study and imaginative attempts to solve problems. When a person like Einstein became famous, he did not become famous because there was a lot of social media at that time, or there was a campaign, or there was politics. He became famous because he began to ask simple questions which nobody else had asked, and more important than that, he discovered ways by which the problem could be solved. So today, I will attempt to give you my glimpse of the interconnection between curiosity, thirst for knowledge, acquisition of knowledge, incubation of that knowledge in such a way that you get tangible benefits for society. At the end of the day, the fact that we are sitting in an air-conditioned hall, we are using bikes fueled by petrol, we have computers that help us acquire knowledge, the internet, and everything that we see which is a fruit of science and technology, that came out of people like you who set out to acquire knowledge, work on that knowledge, continuously sought new frontiers, and came up with solutions, and those solutions met unmet needs of society. Today, this country is aspiring to be a part of the most foremost societies and countries of the world. We can see and imagine ourselves occupying the top positions of science and technology, because without science and technology today in this world, no country can progress. But science and technology is not enough. Science and technology is like the cart which needs a bullock. Only then you have a bullock cart. It is like a film in which there are a lot of ideas, a lot of good lyrics, but then everything has to come together to make a beautiful end product. So, as I talk to you in the next 30-40 minutes, I will try to paint a picture for you that we have acquired in India the last 60-70 years a great level of accomplishment in the understanding of science, the teaching of science, and the hallmarks and the end products of this science, publications, number of students, how many students from India go abroad and populate the best centers in the world. There are top institutes in the world that up to 20 or 30% students are Indian. So you can see that people like us, people like you, have developed the capability after just 60-70 years of independence of being recognized not only in just IT, but practically every area of science and technology as the best minds in the world. But I will pose before you one question now. After this lavish description of our achievements, please ponder for one moment, when you look at the fruits of science, which is technology, how many technological products that you see around you that actually came from India, their origin? And the answer, my dear friends, is that practically not anything. When you look at the motor car, when you look at the, and so many things, electricity, lighting, energy, most of the breakthroughs came from sources outside India. You agree with it? We have to overcome that. When we have a great foundation of science, understanding of technology, utilization of technology, whether it came from within our laboratories, or it came from outside, or it came through technology transfer, the utilization of technology and the upscaling of the technology so that it becomes applicable, that part of the equation, also we will have a look at it. I will illustrate it with my experiences, both positive and negative. It is from the negative experiences that you learn much more than the positive experiences. The positive experiences like eating cake But if you get a cake with a small stone in it, you will remember throughout your whole life. That is also a greater lesson. So we will have a mixed bag of experiences that I will present before you so that we can all reach some conclusions. Maybe it will light up in your minds, especially the students, the unmet challenges and the pathways that we need to follow forward to progress. Next slide, please. Everything starts with an idea. It's like a spark. And where does the idea come from? See, when you open your textbook and start reading, you acquire knowledge. When Newton mused over the phenomenon of gravity and something struck in his mind because his mind was prepared, that was an idea. When James Watt looked at the kettle, proverbial kettle with steam pressure, and he conceived of an engine from that, this is an oversimplification, that spark of that idea, where did it come from? It came from imagination. Human beings probably are the only species in this world who are endowed with imagination. What is imagination? I don't have to tell you. When you are sitting in this hall and imagining your today's dinner, that is imagination. When you think of the plot of a film that you want to see tomorrow, even without knowing it, it is imagination. I'm pretty sure your pet dog or somebody else's animal doesn't have imagination. I'm not very sure about it, but that is the usual understanding. They work with instinct. Human beings work with imagination. So all education ultimately is transmission of knowledge, but it should ignite imagination. And when that idea of imagination is ignited, it's not a very easy equation. Why is it that in some societies, so much imagination is ignited that there is a plethora of discoveries and knowledge and inventions? Whereas in other societies, and many societies in the world, imagination is either not triggered, or even if it is triggered, it is rapidly extinguished. We as teachers have to ignite imagination. You as students have to undergo activities that will ignite your imagination. A single great spark of imagination can change the world. It is so powerful. So without dwelling on this, the idea, the imagination is the primary spark. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So the important thing is not to stop questioning. Keep questioning. This is obvious. Teachers have to encourage questioning, even if it looks like a stupid question. Students have to keep questioning, not necessarily the teacher, but themselves. When you go into a library and you have a question, the answer is all there. You have to discover it. Next slide, please. See, in that quotation which I picked, Einstein says the most important thing is imagination. And this is not something Tom, Dick and Harry is saying. One of the greatest scientists is saying imagination and curiosity is the most important thing. So when at the early stage of education, these are qualities that will make your future. But that doesn't mean that without imagination you cannot progress. You can use somebody else's imagination and go forward. The whole value chain of discovery, technology, industry, societal value, and money. This whole this value chain is important. When Tata makes a Mercedes truck in India, they import technology. That technology was not made by us or by Tata. That technology was already well established. They took a license, started manufacturing it, and whole of India, especially Punjab, Haryana, Bihar, all that movement is through those trucks. It changed India. So even if you have components in place which are not linked, they are very important. There are unit operations. Unit operation A, curiosity, discovery. Unit operation B, understanding. Unit operation 3, utilization of a spark into a patent. Unit operation 4 means patent converted into prototype. Unit 5 is prototype converted into small amount of upscaling. And so on and so forth, till products and services are formed which people enjoy and there is great value is generated. It's not easy. It is definitely not easy. It takes a civilization to master all of the steps. In India, luckily, fortunately, our Indian mind, our civilizational wisdom, we have almost all these unit operations in place. We have to link them effectively. How will we link it? Who will link it? What does it cost to link it? These are important questions. But once you link the engine, rail tracks, wagons, guard, train can go. And you put electricity. Electricity means money into the system, it will go. So with this backdrop, I want you to see the description. Okay, it's very, very important that we understand as we embark on a scientific career, what it is all about. This is another clue a great mind has given us. These are just one or two sentences, but these are wisdom accumulated by pioneers over a lifetime. Thomas Edison, which all of you know, was a great inventor. He says, the most important requirement for success is the application of all your physical and mental energies on one problem. Very important. If your attention is scattered, it will not produce the results. It's very important. You have to be obsessed with it. Obsessed in a very positive way. This is very important. And how do you get obsession? When you imagine, when you participate, when you probe, when you dive deep, then you come out with a pearl. Only then you come out with a pearl. If you stand on the seashore and desire that a pearl will come out, it may not come out. You have to dive in with all your attention, all your dexterity, and all your focus. Next slide, please. So today, when you see, what is the academic model that is going around? Faculty people are sitting here and they will agree. What you basically are looking at is inquiry and curiosity, knowledge, scholarship, that is important. Then you pick up a problem, you strike a hypothesis, you test it out, you experiment, and you get insight. Then you publish it. It is useful in your teaching. In the best universities, the people who make discovery teach. Not just people who just read and teach. That is stage one. If you go to the top universities in the world, you will find that some Nobel laureate is taking your classes. What a great blessing it is. Somebody who has discovered and altered the understanding of science is teaching you. Tomorrow there may be a Nobel laureate in this university, It's very much possible. So the value chain, but then you get peer recognition, you get some awards, maybe even a Nobel Prize, some local awards. This is the basic model that is there in academia. This is a time-tested model. The only problem is, from my point of view, very humbly, is like we have stuck in this in this model. This model was good, but no longer good. Our faculty, especially senior faculty, people who are in the best universities, have to aspire for something more. Even if they don't aspire, they have to create an atmosphere where the new faculty will aspire. Once they aspire, they take risks, they fail, you have to encourage them, and you have to create clusters of inventors, clusters of people who talk to industry. Industry themselves says, my goodness, your ideas are so good, I recognize that you people cannot do it, but I will do it, because they have generated faith on you. Once you create this value chain, you will see transformation. We will take the example of other countries that have done it briefly, just to illustrate what we have, just as we discussed, but what we don't have. Next slide. Think over this question. It's slightly humorous. What makes a movie great? Some of my friends, maybe you said Sangam is very good, Shatranj Ke Khilari is very good, or some we love our movies, no? Some youngsters will talk about some other movies. Is it the songs that make a movie great? Is it the lyrics that make the movie great? Is it the director that makes the movie great? Is it the photographer that makes the movie great? Is it the locales that make the movie great? Is it the plot that makes the movie great? Is it the moral of the story that makes the movie great? Yes, all of them. All of them in a very, very strategic, beautiful convergence. So the convergence of multiple assets, I am making only an analogy. When you want technology, when you want successful technology, like a movie, many things have to fall into place. I am a very good writer, I am Sahir Ludhanvi, movie will not be great. I need a good director also. I need a good heroine also, who will sing my songs with the poignancy that the audience will love. When all these factors come together, then the blossoming occurs. We as a society, we as an industry, we as academia have not yet reached that convergence. But let us identify that convergence. It is very important we identify that convergence. Once you identify something, once you desire something, things will happen. If you don't desire something, it's not going to fall like that. Newton desired that apple to fall, probably. He was right for it, and the apple fell. It's a way of saying things. So we have to be ready. We have to recognize. Next slide, please. So when you have technology, when you want to do technology propagation versus problem solving, problem solving can be a very, very deep dive or it could be a shallow dive. The problem may be very shallow, very specific for an MSc project. If you modify a molecule and make it more hydrophobic or more hydrophilic, will it attain this property? No, this is problem solving. You have a hypothesis, you test it. On the other hand, problem solving can be vastly big, so that it reaches into a technology which actually addresses the solving of a problem. You want a drug that has a function. You want the drug to have low toxicology. You want a drug that addresses the problem, that disease. You want a drug that is affordable, and so on and so forth. So when you try to solve a problem, it could be a fundamental problem or it could be a much larger problem. If you have not solved problems, if you have not solved small problems, we cannot solve big problems. So as youngsters, as researchers, tomorrow some of you will become researchers, you will become faculty members, you will get a grant, there are faculty members sitting here. If you say, I want to solve cancer problem, very good, all the best to you. No, you have to take small problems, you have to break big problems into small problems, and then it will solve. I will illustrate it as we go along. Next slide. When you innovate something and when you invent something, many of you must be familiar, when you invent something, I will illustrate it as we go. When you invent something, it is the first glimpse, it's a very, very important thing. You invent, it's a transition where your scientific principles have began to produce results, the first results. And the results are reproducible, tangibly successful, and promising. That is invention. Okay? Once you innovate, it's a next step. Invention convert into innovation. Innovation is where it becomes starting useful. Next slide, please. I don't know whether I'll come to this point a little later. I have slides on it. So you have in science, what do we do? You have identified a problem, curiosity, ideation, lab scale experimentation, observations, etc., etc. But when you have to look at deliverables, which are publications, patents, proof of the working, and products, the right side is much more challenging. You can do many things like this and still not succeed. You have to go on to the right side if you have to succeed. If these are done well, block A is done well, block B will also follow. So this is a recognition of the steps involved in the game, in the beginning of the game. Of course, we will trace the beginning to its logical end. Next slide, please. Let us recognize one thing. I want to invent something which will change the world. Such a thing usually doesn't happen very often. Human discovery, human invention, human value creation occurs in small strategic steps. Do most of you recognize that? Like, it starts from trying to replicate something, like a child does, like an ape does, like a monkey does. Human beings are also monkeys. You see something, you replicate it. When you replicate it, your imagination starts firing. If this is what I can I do this? When you say I can do this, you try out an experimentation. And the game starts. Next slide. So disruptive technology does not come all of a sudden. I'll illustrate it. The first heavier than flight, air flight, just flew 10 feet high. These are the Wright brothers. All of you are familiar with it. It took them many, many years and many failures to reach a state where they could make an airplane which could be controlled, which were heavier than air, and which could fly. But it flew only 10 feet in the air. Was it a great thing or not? Of course it was a great thing. Next slide. It took several decades to reach a state where you could buy a ticket, sit in it, and go to another country. So, invention, innovation, and successive steps of improvement. This is how technology moves. Who makes the money in this? Wilbur Wright brothers made money? No. They did not make money. These guys made money. Who are these people? We know. Boeing, other people, Airbus, they made money. So this is another question. As inventors, do you make money? No guarantee. Of course, you can make some money. But the real value comes from people who upscale it and take it out to society. Next slide. In the future, we'll have air travel in space. We are on the brink of that. Next slide. Look at this instrument. This looks like a centrifuge. Some biologists will say this looks like a centrifuge. Actually, it was the first working prototype of a video VCR, a video recording machine. And it was used by the Radio Corporation of America. It used to cost several $100,000. It was used only by the richer studios, but it made a big transition. Earlier than that, there were only live programs on TV. Just like a tape recorder could capture your sound, this could capture sound as well as video, pictures. It was a big transition. Did they make the money? Probably not. Next slide. This is the VCR that some of us old-timers have seen in our youth. Today, youngsters don't know what VCRs are. Probably some might. But this was the one that made that money. The Japanese beta format or the American first prototype. It went through a series of transformations, and then somebody made a product that everybody could afford to buy. So then that is great values created in terms of money, in terms of profit, the scale of business, and the transformation of society, of entertainment. Next slide. So what is the lesson that I am trying to capture here? What is the lesson from this 8 or 10 slides? The lesson, I think, is that if you cannot invent, copy. That is what the Chinese have done. That is what the Koreans have done. That is what the Japanese have done. If you cannot invent, start copying. And start on the right-hand side of the equation. The left-hand side of the equation is discovery, invention, innovation, prototype, putting in a lot of money, upscaling it. Technology is working. You improve it side by side, replicate it, make it affordable. That is what India has done. Also, we think that only Japan, Korea, and these people have done. No, India has also done. I will illustrate it. What does the message is? That on the one hand, we can say we have not done this, we have not invented, but we have done successfully in this country the right-hand side of the equation. Now we are doing many things in the left side of the equation. Some of you might have filed for patents. Many of you must be doing things which are first time. You are publishing papers. Fine, very good. But you are also thinking of trying to solve a problem. Today I had the good fortune of going in some labs, and I was very impressed by that there are faculty who are trying to solve problems. They are also teaching you, they are also acquiring knowledge, they are transmitting knowledge, but they are also trying to solve problems. That is the left side of the problem, of the equation. Right side of the equation has not come from universities right now, as I said in the beginning, but we have experience of that. I will illustrate it. Next slide. So, this is slightly off the track, but the lesson is that don't be afraid of failing. Failing is the cost of success. Nobody has succeeded by not failing. I don't have to tell you that. You are very wise people, but for the youngsters, our academia only recognizes and praises and rewards success. Fine, it is good. But out of the failures will tomorrow come out the heroes. While all the top students, take my wordings with a pinch of salt, the best students are always the best, but out of the outliers will sometimes come the breakthrough. Oftentimes, the breakthroughs come from outliers. Respect the outlier. Respect the rebel. Don't disrespect the rebel. The rebel is trying to tell you, I don't trust you enough. There must be reason behind it. Do you trust yourself fully? No, I don't trust myself. I am not the ultimate word in wisdom. I am also trying to acquire wisdom. So if a student says, some of it that you are teaching is not very good, in very respectful words, respect that. Next slide, please. Ultimately, market disruptive technologies are what is very easy to glorify, but most technologies are not disruptive. They are incremental. All of a sudden, it's like evolution. The biologists would recognize how evolution operates. Small mutations, small changes, they are selected out just because they have a survival advantage. Similar thing happens in technology, but every time there is a cycle of production and sale and value creation, and if it doesn't succeed, somebody loses money. Just as in evolution, the guys who don't have the advantage die. Similarly, in the marketplace, same kind of evolution occurs. Let us be aware of that. Tomorrow you want to say, I have got an idea, I have got a technology, I will succeed. No, because market is merciless. So you have to have people who understand the market also. So it's like making a film again. What can I say? So many things have to come together. But I am not trying to give you a formula. I don't have that wisdom. I am only trying to tell you that the problem is worth addressing and the problem is addressable. Thank you. But it's difficult. That's fair enough, no? Next slide. This is disruptive tech. All of us want an Apple iPhone. Is there anybody who doesn't want an Apple iPhone? From the heart here. Good for you. You make a better one. Huh? So, this guy dreamt of it. People say personally he was a, what is the right word? Asshole? Sorry. That is how people describe him. But he was a disruptor. He didn't settle for small things. He continually pushed himself, he continuously pushed out. These are the type of people who may disrupt, not necessarily. But look at the right side. Before iPhone, there was a thing called BlackBerry. I have used it myself, very good. But it didn't have many things which the iPhone brought. In fact, iPhones were the ones which created a smartphone first time, real smartphone. A smartphone is as close to Aladdin. Aladdin means Aladdin's ghost, as is physically possible. A smartphone is like the ghost out of Aladdin's lamp. It does everything for you. And it's just the beginning. This is disruptive technology. I don't have to describe you. So we should realize that disruptive technology is one game, but it is a game of the big guys, the best boxers, the Muhammad Alis. They will do disruptive technology. We are not Muhammad Alis right now. We aspire to become Muhammad Ali. China aspired to be Muhammad Ali, still not Muhammad Ali. but they are in the arena. India aspires to be Muhammad Ali. You and I aspire to be Muhammad Ali. We have to work hard for it. But disruptive technology is one of the peaks of this whole game. Next slide. Another lesson. Don't be afraid of making mistakes. Learn from mistakes. System should allow for mistakes. Next slide. This is very descriptive. This is what our civilization needs to work on. So it's a civilizational message. Next slide. We were not like this. Today we are aspiring. When we gained independence, there was hardly anything in terms of education, in terms of industry. But we came out of it due to great leadership, due to great qualities, civilizational qualities, the diversity within this country. Tamilians have great civilization. Hindi has great civilization. Northeast has great civilization, great literature. All of this 10 times more colorful and powerful than Europe. That is what we are. That is what we are actually. But we were pushed by history to a state, into a corner, where we despised ourselves, where we thought we can't do anything. Today you are the representative of the aspiration of the country which says we will do it. Several thousand years old in the past, it is said, and it is very well recorded, that we had great insight into surgery, into medicine, Ayurveda. Ayurveda, I'm not trying to over-project it. This is what is on record. This is what has been recognized. Not empirically, actually, with great focus, with recording, with history. Ayurveda had huge, today also, just like Chinese medicine, Greek medicines, etc. Ayurveda was probably the fountainhead of all those traditional medicines. We have to find out solutions from Ayurveda, but we have to depend on Western medicine also. We have to get the best out of systems. But what is the message? The message is, our civilization created not only great knowledge, but also created solutions. We were capable of doing it. Something happened in between where we lost that capability. So the question I'm trying to address today with a small amount of passion is, how do we revive it? And I want to transmit that message to the last of you sitting there, that it is possible to revive it. My own personal experience, I will try to illustrate it. Next slide. Now look at the Green Revolution. Some of you youngsters, I'm sure you know what the Green Revolution was. The Green Revolution in India was not technological revolution. The technology came from outside, right? What happened? In the 1960s, we were a basket case where we had famines every year and we had great problems. Then at the time, in the 65 war, little earlier, little later, in the times of Lal Bahadur Shastri, Mrs. Gandhi, etc., and very able ministers and administrators and scientists, we utilized the findings of Western science, the capability to generate high-yielding crops, cash crops, and put it in India and filled the basket with goodies, wheat production, rice production. Today we are exporters of grain. This transformation that happened was not due to technology generated from our labs, please try to understand, but from the massive help, infrastructure, conceptual dissemination that transformed that technology into the farms of Punjab and Haryana and elsewhere, so that India became self-sufficient. So the lesson here is, it's not very important who provided the technology. It is the transformation that you bring about with technology. I gave you the example of Tata trucks. So therefore, India had a past in which we could generate technology. I gave you examples. Now I gave you examples where even though the technology was not Indian, we utilize it with XYZ factor, we will define it, to convert society into an affluent society with respect to that problem. So the take-home lesson is, it doesn't matter where the technology comes in. Technology comes in from human mind, from knowledge, from curiosity, for invention, innovation. Till that time, it is not money. Money or effectiveness. Money doesn't mean just cash. When a farmer gets a crop which gives him 2 times or 3 times better yield of wheat, it is not just money. It is the capability to feed hungry bellies. It is value. So the value can be created at this end, middle end. Point here is, in our collective experience, we have all the things present. Just like how I started out. Let us not think we are technology dwarfs. We are not. We have to link these together. How? Like a film is made. It's not easy. Out of 100 films, only 5 succeed. Yeah, but 5 succeed and make money. They entertain you. You feel happy. That's how we have to do technology. This is a very personal view. So somebody, at the end of the talk, please tear me to bits about the hypothesis that I'm putting. I'll be enriched with that. But I'm posing these ideas to you so that you can challenge it, rediscover them, and make it into a motive or a message for your career, young people. Next slide. Next slide, please. Similarly, white revolution, the milk revolution which happened in Gujarat, the cooperatives. I encourage you people to look into the net and find out what happened there. Today, India is the largest milk producer in the world. When I was a kid, my mother used to ask me to go to the milk supply depot in Delhi and stand 1 hour from 5 o'clock till 6:15 when the truck came, and I got 3 bottles of milk, as if I have got the rediscovered $1 million, and go home. 2 lessons I learned. The lessons of getting up early and discovering the pain involved in it, and the lesson that we do not have much milk. Today there is no problem. You go to any corner in this country, so much milk is there. What transformation came? Where did it come from? Ponder for yourself. So these 2 things we have already mastered. We have a supply chain, we have good entrepreneurs, we have good businessmen, we have technology possibilities from our own labs or from outside. Now if you produce technology in your lab tomorrow, be aware that is not the end result. It is only a seed. It is only a recipe. You have to take it forward. So we have to construct systems which will do the complete chain. Next slide, please. I will skip over slides because otherwise, next slide, please. This is one example where old Indian technology was utilized in modern context to make a combination drug for diabetes by CSIR, Lucknow labs, in collaboration with the company, and it is selling. This for diabetes. And in one of the addresses of CSR, Bhatnagar Award ceremony, Prime Minister actually referred to this, that CSR has made this, etc., which was great pride for us, Prime Minister mentioning it. But the point is, this is a hybrid. Ayurveda technology dressed up in the modern context. It's not as if we are giving you herbs, we are giving you extracts. We are taking out 16 herbs extracts, testing it on animals, even doing a clinical trial and telling you this is a very good drug. Next slide, please. Now I will come to my own experiences, both positive and negative. Mostly positive, because even the lack of success is positive because it gives you lessons. When I started my career as a scientist, in our institute, which is a CSIR institute, IMTech in Chandigarh, when I was starting my career, one of the problems that the institute had been grappling with for a number of years was to prepare technology for clotbusters. When somebody gets a heart attack, these days, the first thing for them to do is to take a pill of aspirin, rush them to hospital, and the hospital will do an angiography and probably put a stent or something. And the cost comes to around a couple of lakh rupees at the least, and probably more. If the situation is much worse, the patient will undergo bypass surgery. Now these are very expensive methods. A very simple method has been from the 1970s to give a clot buster. A clot buster is a drug which, when given to a person suffering heart attack, dissolves the clot within half an hour to 1 hour, and the person survives. They can either go home or they can go through the next phase of treatment, and it is a lifesaver. India was not in a position when I joined as a scientist to produce any clot buster. And there were some attempts in the institution to make it. Technology was not coming. When I joined and we formed a group, we managed to produce the India's first clot buster. I'm going through the story much faster. And through fermentation, microbiology, etc., and licensed it out to a fairly good Indian company called Cadila from Ahmedabad. You must have heard the name. And they marketed it, they produced it in large quantities and marketed it. And we were able to give technology to the Indian market for the first time. The drugs that were brought from abroad used to cost at that time, in the 95, 6, 7, 8 time, no, slightly after that, around 2000, used to cost about 5,000 rupees those days for a single injection. The best drug in the market, which was imported from America, used to cost $1,000. At that time, approximately 45,000 rupees. Clearly unaffordable for most people, but even the 5,000 was not so affordable. We made the technology in the lab, in microbial technology, where the vial used to cost us 150 rupees. Okay? It's about process. It's about putting your mind to solve a problem. It's about producing indigenous technology, and we market it. So that was one big success I personally and the team had. It was recognized. It opened up possibilities for me and the institution. You probably know already that coronary artery disease or cardiac problems is the #1 killer in the whole world. #1 killer. In India, presently almost 4 crore people per every year get into cardiac problems due to a number of reasons. All of them cannot go and get bypass surgery. All of them cannot go and get stent. So clot busters are important. At that time, bypass and etc. were happening only in Delhi or Bombay. Clot busters were the only choice, which were not available. Next slide. 30% of all deaths in India are due to cardiac problems. Next slide. We'll go to the next slide. This is a very important slide. What is the impact on economy of coronary disease? It is almost to the extent of 1.27% GDP loss. Sir, 1.2% of GDP loss is not small figure. It's a major figure. This is the price India pays for it. It's probably even increased. So it's a very important problem. What is the solution? Make technology in India. And once the technology was made, it helped many people, crores and crores of people, with very, very limited budget to purchase the medicine. Next slide. We'll go to the next slide, please. So once we did that, we thought, we started asking question, how the drug works, etc. We went deep into the science and made an improved molecule. The best clot buster in the world was TPA, tissue plasminogen activator, which costed 45,000 rupees, because it is very target specific. It's like a missile which goes to the clot and destroys it, like a targeted missile. Whereas streptokinase, what it does, is like shotgun. You put 2,000 pellets, one pellet hits the clot, it dissolves, but those 2,000 pellets also create side effects. Those side effects may be bleeding. So we converted the streptokinase by protein engineering through deep study into targeted molecules and patented them and licensed them. This is the crux of the story. Next slide, please. Next slide. So this was the first India's clot buster, okay? And then it was recombinant streptokinase, which we made in technology in bulk to Shasun Drugs in Chennai, and they marketed it, and almost 50% of the clot buster market in number of doses was from Imtex technology. So this was a major contribution coming out of an Indian lab. Next slide. This is a launch of streptokinase with the then minister and the DG of CSIR at the time, Dr. Shamir Brahmachari. And somewhere in this picture, I am also there, even if you don't recognize me. Next slide. These are all the brands which are sold from that technology. Next slide. The value creation, I told you about GDP, the value creation from these technologies at that time, 2011 figures, was 30,000 crores. Every time a life is saved, money is generated because person throughout their life, their average survival rate into the wages is converted into value. That value was 30,000 crores for people. Now that is the value of the drug for the societal benefit. Next slide. I will not take you much into the science. I somehow got it there thinking that time will be there. But the point is that after we did this, we went deep into the science and made advanced molecules which were patented and then licensed out for millions of dollars. They are still in clinical trials, and its chances are that in a few years, one drug will come out, not only for, which will be a world-class patented drug from India. Next slide. Next slide, please. Yeah, go on, please. Go on. These are all details on the science, I don't take you. Next slide. So we designed a totally new drug and patented it, which was through protein engineering. Next slide. We also made a facility for biopharmaceuticals, another important part. So when we gave it to the company, instead of their setting up a plant, we had already a facility available where drug could be prepared and tested with humans, which they did. Next slide. So 4 generations of clotbusters coming from one lab from some fundamental questions. How does it work? How can you make the process more economical? And concentrated action and a good team. That led to results. It was not something magic or anything. It was just focused work with the right team. Next slide. One of these technologies was licensed for $150 million. I have not seen much of that $150 million because it is the process of taking a drug to market takes about 10 years to 12 years. Next slide. So we have to have deep fundamental questions you have to ask. You have to have a hunger for translation. These are not necessarily individual requirements, but institutional requirements. Once you have an institutional requirement and people align to that, you can get magic results. Next slide. Now, if you have an existing product and you want to make a new product, the right-hand side of the equation, you need to do commercialization, managing marketing, etc. That is the challenge that in the milk revolution, in the space revolution, in the green revolution, who did? Market did not do it. Most of the thing was done by governmental support, government putting in a lot of money. Today, government may not want to put money after we have science and technology, after we have universities. Who will put in the money? Next slide. India has probably lost its position to China as the world's workshop. China became the world's workshop and made money, learned technology, and now it masters the whole game. Can India do that? They will get there. But our challenge is to invest sufficiently in education. I agree with what Ratan Tata says, but we have already invested a lot in education. We need to strengthen the other part of the chain. Next slide. If you look at the output of China, you see a huge difference. If you see the input of China as compared to India, you see a huge difference. So we need to put in money into the right side of the equation, where the work from the labs have to be nurtured and taken to industry. Industry is not in a position to take up technology and do it. It has to be supported. Just like we supported Green Revolution, etc. That part is still weak in this country, and once it becomes strengthened, I think we will see the results. Next slide. Next slide. So these all the steps that I talked about in my talk are summarized here. Innovation, discovery, innovation, proof of concept, patents, organization, funding, process, clinical trials. This is for drugs and ultimately marketing and applications. This huge transition, most of these steps, except the early part of the steps, our pharmaceutical industry knows. If their trust in Indian innovation and patenting and IPR increases, and there is a solid bridge where the scientist also holds hands with the industry, results will come out. So it has been nucleated to some extent, but it has not become a torrent. The transformation to be able to do that has to begin sometime, and I hope that it will happen in the next generation of both entrepreneurs, scientists, and government. Next slide. At the end of the day, science has to be enjoyed. Nature has to be marveled. That must go on. Despite the pain of later steps, the first few steps as scientists, look at the dog, he's enjoying, somebody else is toiling, he is enjoying. We have to enjoy science. Next slide. The intuitive mind is a sacred gift, and that is the most important. Please read the quotation for yourself. Rationality is secondary. Intuition is number one. Once you get insight, then mind is a faithful servant. Today what we are doing is we are honoring the servant, mind. The intuition, the discovery process is very, very important. Next slide, please. But on the other hand, you have this gentleman who makes products that we all desire. So you have to have a sangam of both. Next slide. Like Winston Churchill said, never, 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 never give up. We have to keep trying. And luckily for you, you have leaders like Dr. Manoj Arora, distinguished faculty, absolutely marvelous infrastructure, vision and hope, and certainly my best wishes. Thank you.
It was a wonderful talk that we are able to listen, starting from the quotes to the examples, to the process and everything. Thank you very much. Before we open the questions to the audience, I'd like to request Professor D. Narayan Rao and Professor V.S. Rao if they have any comments, if they would like to discuss with the distinguished guest for a short period of time.
Excellent, inspiring lecture, which instills many of our young students to innovation, how Indian innovation could deliver so much to the Indian society. The collaboration between research laboratories and the Indian industries like Cadila has really brought out the excellent outputs. Indeed, I thoroughly enjoyed the lecture. It gives me confidence. Now, our research laboratories and the universities can really produce excellent such type of innovations. I think many have been mentioned, streptokinase, how that really helped the country. So great thing, sir. We thoroughly enjoyed the lecture. Once again, on behalf of the university, I thank you for this excellent lecture delivered by you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Over to Professor D. Narayan Rao.
Dr. Girish Sahni delivered an outstanding and amazing lecture. I'm sure he hypnotized, inspired, and motivated the faculty members, research scholars, and students to carry out translational research. As he has been repeatedly mentioning left-hand side, right-hand side, we need to focus on the right-hand side, that is translating our research endeavors into affordable products catering to the society, particularly the Indian population. As Dr. Sahni mentioned, green revolution, white revolution, I'm sure AI revolution will happen in the years to come. AI is not encompassing each and every domain in the world. See, you are aware, internet created the maximum number of billionaires in this country. Internet will do much more, AI will do much more than that. Now AI is penetrating into healthcare in a big way, and AI is everywhere. So what I'm trying to say to the faculty members and students present for this lecture, as Girish mentioned, focus on one thing and put all your efforts in a focused manner. I'm sure you will succeed. Thank you very much. Sir, we are grateful to Dr. Girish Sahni. Of course, I used to interact with him in 2015-16 for our Indian Science Congress. Afterwards, of course, there was no contact. Okay, thank you very much.
I now request Professor Ranjit Thapa, Dean of Research, and Dr. Vinayak Kalluri, Officiating Registrar, Dean of Academics, Controller of Examination, to come to the dais and greet our guest with a memento. A big round of applause again. I now request Dr. Rajapandian, Assistant Professor, Department of Chemistry, to give the concluding remarks.
Good evening, everyone. So in conclusion, the lecture on scientific progress to grand progression has been an enlightening exploration into the dynamic realms of scientific discovery, technological innovation, and market integration. Our chief guest adeptly navigated the complex landscape, shedding light on the tremendous potential that lies in the seamless transition from scientific exploration to tangible market impact. The journey from theory to application, as highlighted, is a collaborative odyssey that demands collective efforts from academia, industry, and entrepreneurial minds. We would like to extend our deepest gratitude to our esteemed speaker for sharing their profound insights and expertise, providing a roadmap for bridging the gap between scientific breakthroughs and successful market implementation. We also would like to thank our sincere thanks to our President and our Vice Chancellor for their visionary leadership and continuous support. Their commitment to fostering an environment conducive to intellectual exploration and innovation has paved way for the events like these to thrive. We would like to thank our Executive Director, Professor Narayan Rao, and our advisor, Professor V.S. Rao, for joining this event. A special acknowledgement goes to the ITKM department, communication team, CLM team, organizing committee, volunteers, and all those who worked tirelessly behind the scenes to make this distinguished lecture a resounding success. We would also like to thank all the attendees who have joined us today. As we reflect on the valuable insights gained today, let us carry forward the spirit of collaboration and innovation, ensuring that the opportunities and challenges outlined in this lecture propel us towards a future of grand progression and societal impact. We look forward to more such enlightening gatherings in the future. Thank you once again. Have a nice evening.